Laws. All mass is both electric and magnetic. All mass simultaneously expresses both opposites of all effects of motion, and each opposite is cumulatively preponderant in sequence. All electromagnetic mass forms into systems of units which revolve in spiral orbits both centrifugally toward and centrifugally away from nuclear centers. All preponderantly charging systems are positive systems. All preponderantly discharging systems are negative systems. All preponderantly contracting systems are positive systems. All preponderantly expanding systems are negative systems. All systems whose spirals are preponderantly closing spirals are positive systems. All systems whose spirals are preponderantly opening spirals are negative systems. All systems of preponderantly lessening volume are positive systems. All systems of preponderantly increasing volume are negative systems. All systems of preponderantly increasing potential are positive systems. All systems of preponderantly lowering potential are negative systems. All preponderantly integrating systems are positive systems. All preponderantly disintegrating systems are negative systems. All preponderantly generating systems are positive systems. All preponderantly radiating systems are negative systems. All preponderantly heating systems are positive systems. All preponderantly cooling systems are negative systems. In other words, electricity is the inhalation or inbreathing generative action, while magnetism is the exhalation and outbreathing radiative reaction. Electricity is the plus half of the one universal force, which has apparently divided itself into two forces, and magnetism is the minus half. Electricity and magnetism exist as separate appearances only when opposed. In non-opposition, they disappear. They become one. Electricity desires to gather its half together as one force and substance, while magnetism, on the contrary, desires separation into two forces and exerts itself to the utmost to bring about this separation. Electricity accumulates power, while magnetism dissipates it. Positive electricity is the plus half of electromagnetically charging light units, which are seeking higher pressure zones. Negative electricity is the minus half of electromagnetically discharging light units, which are seeking lower pressure zones. Pressure zones are those states of increasing density of integration, which are caused by the power of positive electricity to attract and to accumulate energy. Electricity is the power force of the universe. Electricity accumulates power into high potential from the universal constant at the sacrifice of one of its time dimensions. Electricity is the force of resistance to the established speed of the universal constant of energy. Magnetism is the speed force, the time force of the universe. Magnetism dissipates the high potential power dimension and transforms it into time dimension of low potential. Magnetism is the force which works toward a return to the established motion of the universal constant of energy. Electricity and magnetism move in opposite directions, their departure from each other being 180 degrees. Modern science believes the departure of magnetic and electric lines of force to be 90 degrees. This is a wrong interpretation of that illusion of motion. Electricity is a force of gravitation, and moves spirally toward the nuclear center of its mass. It moves as though it were starting at the base of a cone and traveling around its surface in an ever-contracting spiral orbit to its apex. Magnetism is a force of radiation and moves spirally toward the extremity of its mass. It moves as though it were starting at the apex of a cone and traveling around its surface in an ever-expanding orbit to its base. Electricity is therefore centrifugal, and its acceleration of orbital speed is in proportion to its distance from its generative center. Magnetism is therefore centrifugal, and its deceleration of orbital speed is in proportion to its distance from its generative center. Each force balances itself as well as its opposite force. Electricity is the generative force. To generate means to decelerate and establish motion in order that it may be accumulated. Magnetism is the radiative force. To radiate means to accelerate an accumulated force in order that the accumulation may be dissipated into its established motion. Electricity and magnetism are not two separate forces, nor are they two separate substances. They are merely two different dimensions of motion. They belong solely to motion and not to substance. Neither are positive electricity and negative electricity two kinds of electricity. A cold piece of solid iron is the result of electric deceleration of the universal constant, and its power accumulated by the formation of closely packed atomic systems and restricted orbits. This cold piece of solid iron will disappear into gases if its atomic systems are accelerated sufficiently to dissipate them by radiation. Positive and negative electricity are but two differing potentials of the same force which must move in opposite directions for reasons which shall be made clear later in this chapter. Positive electricity can become negative, and negative can become positive by a reversal of their potentials. They are but relative in accord with their respective pressures. The sound of the human voice, for example, is an electropositive action. Its radiation into space or along a wire is an electronegative reaction. The reproduction of the voice by radio or at the other end of the wire is an electropositive reproduction of the negative reaction, which is rapidly expanding into the disappearance of lower potentials. The sudden impact of the radiating sound against the higher pressures of higher potentials reverses the process of radiation. Negative expanding centrifugal force becomes positive contracting centripetal force, and we hear the sound again. Electricity is the basis for the atom. Within every atom of the one substance is all the power of the universe. It is dynamic. The dynamic power of mind is due to the activity of thinking. The dynamic action of universal thinking is the cause of all creation and decreation. Universal thinking is the beginning of all energy. Universal thinking is the foundation of all natural law. All of nature's laws are absolute and periodic effects of their cause, which is the energy of thinking. The created universe is but an effect due to the positive, concentrating, generating, integrating energy of the dynamic action impulse of thinking, which, in its turn, gives way to the negative, expanding, radiating, and disintegrating energy of the dynamic reaction impulse of thinking. The mystery of growth is within the comprehension of the man who knows the orderliness of the opposition between the positive action and negative reaction of the two apparently opposite forces of generation and radiation set up in the process of thinking.